Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk, I left your house in a daze. His words echoed in my head like a curse. I knew I was no longer an outsider. I had been drawn into this story and was now standing on the thin line between reason and darkness. The bottomless staircase was no longer a phenomenon to be studied. It was becoming a part of my sleep, my breathing, my thoughts. 3 days later, I returned to the Black Forest. This time, I had more than a recording device. I had an infrared camera, a magnetic field meter, spare batteries, and a super-sensitive recording device that Eric had sent me. But this time, I went alone. Eric had refused to return after the first time. He said something in the forest had seen him and he didn't want to face it again. Before entering the forest, I stood still for a few minutes, watching the shadows of the trees lengthen under the grey sun. The air was cold and there was a strange metallic smell in the wind. I began to feel the change in the forest. It was so quiet that not a single bird was singing. The dry branches seemed to be reaching out to hold on to whatever was going inside. I followed the same path that led to where I had last seen the bottomless staircase. The clearing was still there, but the grass had grown back and there was no sign of the ground collapsing. I turned on the seismograph and placed the infrared camera on the opposite branch. Everything was ready. I turned on the recorder, grabbed the flashlights and walked to the middle of the clearing. I whispered into the microphone I was back. Bottomless staircase, if you really exist, show me first. Nothing happened. The wind blew gently and the ground beneath my feet was cold. I stood there for about 20 minutes, but then the temperature suddenly dropped sharply. My breath steamed and the device started to emit an alarm. The screen showed unusual vibrations. In the ground, I looked down. The ground began to shake slightly. The grass and soil suddenly parted, as if an invisible door was opening. Slowly, the first step appeared. It was still the same moss-covered grey stone and the old steps that looked like they had been built centuries ago. But this time, it was no longer a fleeting illusion. The bottomless staircase appeared clearly before my eyes, as if waiting for me to step down. I took the camera and walked closer, step by step. The flashlight shone on the stairs, revealing the stone steps fading into the darkness. I turned on the infrared light and discovered a detail that made my heart stop. On the 13th step, there were clearly human footprints that were still wet, as if someone had just stepped up or down not long ago. I knelt down to observe and realized that there was not just one set of footprints. There were 3 sets, 2 large and 1 much smaller. I didn't know where they led, but someone had definitely been here not long ago. I held up the recorder and asked, "Who's down there? Has anyone ever come down?" A long silence. Then from the bottom of the stairs came slow footsteps and a distant whisper. But this time, it wasn't my name. It was a completely new sentence. "One more step, Daniel, just one more step." I shivered. I felt like someone was standing very close, waiting for me below. I took a few steps back. The sound frequency meter began to show dense waves. The volume increased until the machine hissed and disconnected. The heavy atmosphere pressed down on my chest. I felt like I was surrounded by something invisible. The darkness from the bottom of the stairs seemed to creep up each step, stretching towards me. And then I heard a knock. Not from the ground, but from beside my ear. 3 times, clearly, slowly. I turned to run, but when I looked back, The stairs had disappeared. Once again, they had retreated into the ground as if they had never existed. All my devices were off. The camera recorded nothing but static. The recorder was just static. It was as if the forest itself had erased all evidence. I returned home in a state of confusion. But this time, I knew one thing for sure. I had been chosen. The bottomless staircase does not appear to anyone. It chooses people, and it called me Stay. Tuned for the next episode to find out what really happened to the 3 people who left footprints on the bottomless staircase and the secret of the 13th step that Daniel is approaching.